So hey everyone, welcome to Small Farm Living. My name is Julie and today I thought I would craft with some things that I gathered off of my property. A couple of them are things that I actually grow as part of my small business farm here, cut flowers, dried flowers. So that's to give you a little bit of a heads up. But one of them is also just an item that I went and gathered in my wooded section, and we're going to make some fun little crafts with those today. So let's get to crafting. All right, so let's jump into craft number 1. Now on this first craft, I found this little miniature cutting board at my local thrift store. It was only a quarter. You can see this one was really, really well loved. I've never really seen a little miniature one like this that's had so much use. So I was pretty excited because I like things that have character and some history to it. Now I noticed there was a little sticky on there after I took the tag off. I got that off with just some soap and water. Now I'm going to take my antique Waverly wax, and the goal of what I'm trying to achieve here is just to kind of highlight the areas of this cutting board that were well loved and used. Because it's so blonde, you can't really see all of the character. So just by putting on some of this Waverly wax, it sinks down into those cut marks and the scratches and all the goodness, and just makes them stand out. Now, a good portion of where this was well used is going to be covered up, but I still was just wanting to get the whole thing kind of distressed and antiqued looking. Now you can see there was some kind of finish on it, so it really just rubbed right off of the edges on the side. And I just used a wet paper towel and I wiped off all of the excess, and this is what we were left with. So now what I'm going to do with this little cutting board is I want to make a little pouch, and this is some burlap that I got a long time ago, just been sitting in my stash, and it has like this peel off. It's sticky. I've never seen it before since, and I think maybe I got it at Joann's when they were still in business. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure how wide I need of a piece to fit my cutting board, and then I'm going to like roll it over like this so it makes a little pocket. I'm just going to cut that off. And then what I'm going to do, I want some of the cutting board to show around all of the edges, and this piece is way too tall. So I'm just going to eyeball where I want it to stop and cut that off. And now that's about how I want it to look. And because it has this stickiness inside, I'm just going to use that to my benefit, and I am just going to roll back the edge of this piece, and this is going to be the bottom. So I'm just going to trim off a little bit, because of course I don't want the whole inside to be sticky or I'd never get my project in. And then on each side, I'm going to cut off a little strip as well, so that once I get those off, I can just put the sticky edges together, and I can seal the one edge on one side and then the edge across the bottom. So I have a little pocket. The one thing that I don't like about this though is you can see one side is flat on the pocket and the other side is puffed up, and I want those to match. So I just put some super tack glue in on the side to hold that one edge down. And once that sat and dried for a little while, I just put a little bit of tacky glue on the back for longer term hold, and then I used some hot glue, and my glue gun, I had just got it warmed up. It wasn't flowing very well, but we got a layer around that, and then I stuck it on and got that pushed down so that it made good contact. And even though it had the like lining in it, I still just put my scissors down in there to make sure the pocket was well opened and there was no glue seepage coming through to where it would have glued my pocket shut. Now this is lavender that I grow here on my property, part of my flower business. I grow cut flowers and dried flowers as well as veg. But this is some of the lavender that I grew and dried, and what I want to do is make a little bundle to put inside of my little pocket. Now I know this already was in a bundle, but I'm not going to be using the whole bundle of this, and it also needs to be a lot shorter than it currently is. So I'm just going to grab some of these pieces and put them together to form a cute little bouquet of lavender. And now if you see videos coming up on my channel that are gardening related with flowers or veggies or planting from seed or anything like that, that is because that is what I do for a living. I grow all my plants and all my veggies from seed, and I just kind of share with you that whole process, and then as well as throughout the whole growing season, them growing, how I maintain them, how I cut and process both cut flowers and dried flowers, and just have a lot of fun along the way. So hopefully you enjoy gardening videos as well and will watch those. If not, I will still be doing crafting videos because I absolutely love crafting as well. So now that I got my little bundle put together, I'm just wrapping my rubber band around it so it stays mostly in place. Clean up my mess a little bit. And I'm going to tuck it down in there to see if it's the size that I need. And it was kind of stiff, so I had to open it back up with my scissors, and then it popped the glue off of the one edge, so I did have to glue that back down. But I got it tucked down in there and sized it up and realized that it was still too long, so off came the rubber band, trimmed it down some more, got the rubber band put back on, and then I got it tucked back down inside. It just is so short and stubby, but it's what had to be for this to work. And yes, lavender does break apart and shed really easily, so you have to be gentle. But most of the time, I just take those loose pieces of lavender and I save those in a separate bag, and I use those in my other crafting projects like lavender sachets, or I make some like little headache pillows that you can heat or just use cold, and I use flaxseed and lavender in those as well, and they're lovely. So I also just wanted to add a little more of the lavender on each side just to fill out the pocket the best that I could. So I just put some little clumps together. I'm not going to try to rubber band these together. They'll stay in there just fine. And I'm just going to tuck those down in there and add to the beauty. And my husband, unfortunately, does not like lavender. It makes him sneeze. So every time I craft with lavender, I have to make sure he's going to be in his shop for a while and get it cleaned up before he comes back inside. And he actually can still smell it when he comes in, but he's a good sport about it. So there we go. I have that all tucked in there like that. And now the next thing I wanted to do was put a cute little bow on here. And this little kind of like lacy looking trim I got at the Dollar Tree, and I keep looking for it, but I haven't seen it lately. Our Dollar Tree is not the most well stocked, and I'm just going to do just a little simple loop bow like that, and then take a piece of jute twine, wrap it around the center twice so it gives it a little bit of a little girth in the center, I guess you'd say. And then I'm going to tie a knot in the back to hold it all into place. And then I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue on each end of the jute twine that I cut off so that it doesn't fray. And then I'm going to put a generous amount of hot glue on there and glue my little bow onto the top of my little pouch. And now these edges, I didn't like them going sideways. I wanted them to go more downward. And of course, it flung out of my fingers and hot glue got onto the top of the pouch, but thankfully I was able to get that wiped off before it made a sticky mess. And I glued the other side the same way. And I thought that turned out super sweet. I like the way that looked. And so now I'm just going to take a piece of jute twine for my hanger, and I'm going to put it through the hole. And a lot of times I make my hangers too long, which I guess that's good because you can always cut them down and shorten them. But I knew this one I definitely didn't want super long. So I just made kind of like a little slip knot and then rolled that knot up to the very tip so that I had as much hanger as possible with that. You can hang it with the knot showing. I like to tuck the knot back behind the piece. And then as I was looking at it, I liked the way it looked, but then I kind of thought maybe I would put a little bit of jute twine just lining the little pocket and see if I liked the way that looked. So I just measured it up, put some hot glue down, and then I just lined the whole edge with some jute. When I got all the way around to the other side and to the top, I just snipped it off. And that's how she turned out. I thought she turned out super cute. Now, I think I might hang this in my kitchen. I love lavender. I love little things like this. After a while, if you don't bump it, the smell won't be so intense and it won't bug my husband anymore. But I just thought this was super sweet, and I might try a larger one in the future and see how that turns out. Let me know what you think. So now we're going to move on to craft number 2. This is the one where I went down into my wooded section and I gathered some materials. Now I have been looking for a little miniature shade like this, and I've been having a hard time, and I found this at the Goodwill. I was so thrilled. These were brand new, and there was actually 4 of them, and I bought all 4. But I wanted ones with these little side ribs going down the edge, and those are really hard to find. I find a lot that just have the frame at the top and then the frame at the bottom, and then the fabric's what holds it together. So I had to be brutal, stab this with the scissors, use my needle nose pliers to rip this apart, because I am telling you, these little shades are so well made. It probably took me a little over 5 minutes to just get all of this fabric off of here. I felt so bad, but but this is what I wanted the shade for. Now this little hanging piece I'm going to take out here in just a little bit, but I just wanted to show you this is what I collected for this project. Now this is a whole bunch of, some of it is just moss and a bunch of it is moss on some sticks. And in our wooded section, we have wind here quite often and I get a lot of stuff falling out of the trees. Now I took my needle nose pliers and just pulled the little part that sits over the light bulb off of this. Now I'm not going to be hanging this, or if I do decide to hang it down the road, I'm just going to use some string or something like that. But now on this project, I'm going to be using some of the moss still attached to the wood if I can make it fit as far as the shape. And this one, it fit, like it molded around to the bottom pretty perfectly. And then once I put it on here and started to glue it down, it actually snapped and broke, but it wasn't that big of a deal because it was still covered by moss. And as I went along and did this project, I just continually added moss into places that I thought looked a little bare. And that's really what I did on this whole project. I just went around the whole thing. Now, I should have been smart enough to, realize that I needed to cover the whole inside of the lampshade as well and have done that first, because it would have been a lot easier to do the inside before I went on to the outside. But little things like that you can see the stick, I covered up with just little more clumps of moss. And I just continued working my way around. It was kind of a rainy, blasé day, so it was a good day to just sit inside and work with some things in nature, because I would prefer to be outside more than I prefer to be inside. But I'm going to put you on a little bit of a time lapse here coming up so that I don't, have to bore you with the whole thing, because it really is just tedious, same thing over and over and over again, just finding the right piece in the right place and getting it put on there and making it look good. And there's two different types of moss, and I just incorporated them both because I think they're just so pretty. Moss is very fascinating. It's kind of annoying for me because I live on the north side of a hill and we get a lot of moss, but when you really stop and look at it, there's so many different kinds and shapes, and they really are beautiful. But so you can see I'm just working my way around and getting it tucked down into the center. And here we are, it's all finished. This is just an old metal oil lamp that I have that is so pretty, and I just didn't know what to do with it. So I went and bought a little battery operated tea light from the Dollar Tree, and I stuck it inside there so it was kind of lit up like this. In the future, I may just set this on the shelf just for display. You could even add some flowers onto this or some other decorations onto the moss, but I just absolutely love it. I just think just very simple things like this make me happy. So let me know what you think down in the comments. So now we are going to move on to craft number 3. And you can see from this one, we are going to be using some dried flowers that I grow. Now this little tin I got at the thrift store. It was only 99 cents, which surprised me at Goodwill, because normally Goodwill's things that are from the Dollar Tree originally cost more than they do at the Dollar Tree. But this one was only 99 cents, so I was very happy with that. And I am going to take this little tin. Now these are these are mushroom transfers that I got off of Amazon, and I'll link those down below if you're interested. That comes in a whole bunch of sheets and different shapes and sizes and colors, and there's also little floral pictures on here as well. I got these for my daughter because I gave her a dresser that had kind of babyish looking flowers on it, and we are going to cover those up with mushrooms. And she had already picked out all the ones that she wanted to use for the dresser, so the rest of them I told her I was going to use for crafting. So I just started peeling the back layer, or I guess I should say the top layer, off of this, and the mushroom was coming off, and I came to realize that it must have been factory, that there was a little bit of a cut in this mushroom. But luckily I was able to just grab a hold of it and it peeled off together, and it didn't hurt the design at all in the end. But that's the only one I have found that's like that, thankfully. So I'm just going to get this centered down into the middle of my tin here. And then this little tool is just, I think it's a Cricut type tool. I got it at the Dollar Tree, and I just use it a lot of times for my rub-on transfers. I'm just real gentle with it and rub it. And it didn't take a whole lot of rubbing, and I wasn't sure how this was going to turn out. I've never used transfers off of Amazon like this before, but it came off super slick and easy. I didn't have any pieces trying to pull off, and it adhered perfectly. So now we're going to take these little straw flower heads. Now I grow these and I use them in my cut flower bouquets, but I also like to dry just the heads, and sometimes I wire them up so that there is a wire if I want to use them in like more taller bouquets that are dried. But you can see I have like a whole mesh bag full of these. I used to sell these on my Etsy shop, but I haven't opened it back up yet since my daughter is done with her cancer treatments, but I may. If any of you guys are interested in these little straw flower heads and would like me to put them back on my Etsy shop, I am limited in what I have right now, but I'll have more coming up this season. So let me know down in the comments. So I'm just picking different ones and working my way around the tin. Now you see in this batch here, there's all different ones. We have ones that are open like this all the way. I have some that are kind of midway through their opening process, but they're still closed in the center. And I love the way these look as well. And so I'm just kind of alternating not only the colors, but the shapes and the stages of openness that they are as well, just to make it look a little more interesting. I have some all the way down in the little tiny bud stage too. But I'm just kind of digging through the bag, finding ones that I like for the next one that goes in order. And I am simply just working my way around the entire thing. Now here we are with our last one, putting that one down into place. And already it just looks so sweet. Of course, my daughter that loves mushrooms came in and she said, "Oh, Mom, I love it. That's so pretty." But what I'm going to do is with 3 fingers, I'm going to take some jute twine and I'm going to wrap it around 3 times. And I'm going to leave this bottom one still attached to the spool. I'm going to pinch the center and pull it off of my fingers. And then the part that's still attached to the spool, I'm going to wrap it around the center. And then that part that is still attached to the spool, I'm going to now cut it off, but I'm going to cut it just slightly longer than the other piece because I'm going to use that one to do the wrapping for making the knot in the back. Kind of hard to do with my hand up in the air, so I'm going to stick it down on the table and finish tying this knot off. And then I am just going to put a little bit of glue at the top of my hanger. And then I'm going to place my bow on the top. Now I had to adjust this after I glued it on here because I realized I needed to leave a tiny little hoop at the top to hook it onto a hanger. Now I just trimmed a little bit of the stem off so it was as flush as possible so that when I put some hot glue on here and glue it onto the bow, it's sticking on there as best as possible. And here's what it looks like. And sorry, this gets a little blurry, but I'm just showing you, I scooted the bow down just slightly so there was a little bit of a loop sticking up so I could hook it over the hanger so that it could hang. And let me know what you think about this one. I just love straw flowers, the brightness of them, the durability of them, the papery feel. They're just so fun to work with. So now what we're going to do is just go through the final reveal again of all the 3 projects that we did today. So first we're going to start out with the one that we did first, which was our little lavender pouch on our little old mini cutting board. So sweet. I'm just going to, like I said, I'm going to hang this in my kitchen. I'm going to find me some more of that ribbon at the Dollar Tree because I'm out now. And our happy little straw flower and mushroom tin. I'll probably be doing more things with cut flowers or more things with my dried flowers coming up in some future videos for crafting. And then our little moss lampshade with the tea light inside. So let me know if you had a favorite. Otherwise, thanks for hanging out with me today. I will see you next time.